They put a dead rat in my locker on my 15th birthday, and I never told a soul. Not until now. Back then, I just stared at it. Curled up. Stiff. Its tiny mouth frozen open like it had died mid-scream. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there in the hallway, surrounded by the sound of lockers slamming shut and laughter echoing off the linoleum tiles. No one noticed. Or maybe they did, and chose to look away. That was freshman year. My name was Ellie Carson. Skinny. Frizzy hair. Hand-me-down jeans and a backpack with one broken zipper. I wasn't ugly, exactly. I was invisible, which in high school is worse. Except when I wasn't invisible, when they noticed me just enough to destroy me. It started with whispers. Does she even shower? She looks like a witch. Then came the notes in my locker, the gum in my chair, the Instagram accounts that posted pictures of my face photoshopped onto a pig. I remember the day someone left a tampon soaked in ketchup on my desk with a note that said, "For the freak's monthly sacrifice." I remember it all. But I said nothing. Not to teachers. Not to my mom. Especially not to my dad, who would have told me to toughen up, as if toughness was a shield you could just strap on in the morning like deodorant. So I hid. I wore baggy hoodies. Ate lunch in the bathroom. Learned how to hold my breath when I cried so the sobs wouldn't echo. I became quiet. Good. Invisible again. But they never stopped. One day, someone shoved me so hard against the lockers that I chipped a tooth. I told the dentist I tripped in gym class. By junior year, I had stopped hoping it would get better. I just counted the days. 146 left. 87. 32. I had no plan. No dream. Just escape. And then one night changed everything. It was a Thursday. My mom was at her second job. I was home alone, scrolling through college forums, not because I believed I'd ever get in, but because I liked imagining lives that weren't mine. Then I found this thread titled The Glow-Up Diaries. Girls posted before and after photos. Awkward middle school years next to Phi Urza, radiant adult versions of themselves. One comment hit me like a lightning bolt. No one's born confident. You build it. Brick by broken brick. I stared at that sentence for 10 minutes. Then I closed the laptop. Looked in the mirror. I didn't recognize the girl staring back, hollow-eyed, slouched, defeated. And I whispered, "No more." I didn't know what that meant yet. I just knew I was done letting them defy me. At first, I changed small things. I started walking differently, chin up, even if it felt fake. I downloaded free workout videos, did squats in my room until my legs gave out. I saved for drugstore makeup and watched tutorials every night. I started brushing my hair, eating better, reading books about self-worth, trauma, growth. I still sat alone, but now I sat tall. And people noticed. One girl, Rachel, complimented my eyeliner. Another asked if I'd lost weight. The boys still laughed, but not as often. It wasn't magic, but it was movement. The real shift happened after graduation. I got into a community college. Not glamorous, but it was mine. There, no one knew me as that freak from Eastbrook High. I reinvented myself. Got a part-time job at a coffee shop. Learned to network. Took business classes. I worked like I was on fire. Because I was. Every humiliating moment, every slur, shove, whisper, burned in me like gasoline. By 22, I had transferred to a top university. By 24, I launched a skincare brand out of my apartment. Just one product. A face oil. I sold it on Instagram, wrote every caption myself, and shipped each order by hand. At first, I got 3 orders a week. Then 50. Then 200. A beauty blogger with 500,000 followers mentioned my oil in a GRWM video. I sold out overnight. I cried on my bathroom floor. Not because I was rich, I wasn't. Not yet. I cried because for the first time in my life, I was seen for something good. Fast forward 3 years. I'm 27. My company, Ember Skin, just passed $12 million in revenue. I own a downtown loft. I'm engaged to a man who calls me Lionheart because he says there's nothing small about me anymore. But that girl, the one from high school, she still lives inside me. I think about her every time I walk into a boardroom wearing heels so tall they used to terrify me. I think about her when I post a selfie and don't delete it after 10 minutes. I think about her when I donate to anti-bullying nonprofits and fund therapy scholarships for teenage girls. And sometimes, just sometimes, I go back to Eastbrook. A few months ago, I was invited to speak at a school assembly. The same auditorium where I once sat in the back row, silent, afraid to raise my hand. Now I stood on stage, under bright lights, in a fitted white dress and red lipstick, with a mic clipped to my collar. I looked into the sea of young faces and said, when they put a dead rat in my locker, I thought that was the end of my story. But it was just the beginning. The room went still. You could hear the air hum. Afterward, a girl with braces and bitten nails came up to me. She looked like I used to, small, quiet, tired. And she whispered, "Thank you." I thought I was the only one. I squeezed her hand, and I told her the truth. You're not. And you never were. So if you're watching this, maybe you're still in school, or maybe school was a decade ago, but the pain never really left. Hear this. You are not the names they called you. You are not their cruelty, or their silence, or their laughter. You are not the locker room whispers, or the cafeteria stares. You are becoming. And one day, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day, you will wake up, look in the mirror, and finally see it. The warrior, the survivor, the fiery they couldn't put out. And when that day comes, I hope you tell your story. Because there's someone else out there, hiding in the bathroom, waiting to hear that they can make it too. And they will. Just like you did. Story 2. They used to call me a monster. Behind my back, to my face, it didn't matter. 4 eyes. Cheeseburger queen. Pizza face. I can still hear the whispers trailing me down the hallway, the laughter behind locker doors, the camera clicks from under the table. I was the fat girl in class. The one with crooked teeth, oily skin, and hand-me-down sweaters that still smelled like my aunt's perfume. I didn't talk much. I didn't raise my hand. I didn't try to exist too loudly, because every time I did, someone would shove me back into my place. But the worst night? The night that broke me? It was senior prom. They told me someone had invited me, Jason, the quarterback. I didn't believe it at first. Why would someone like him even know my name? But the note in my locker said he thought I was different and wanted to give me a chance. I spent 2 weeks losing sleep, questioning reality. Then, I dared to hope. My mom helped me pick out a dress. We found it on sale, soft lavender, chiffon. I thought maybe, just maybe, I could feel like the other girls for once. I was wrong. When I walked into that gym, lights blinking, glittering dresses spinning like dream versions of the people I knew. It was like everything slowed. Jason was there. He turned, saw me, and smiled. And then someone behind me yelled, "She really came." And laughter exploded like a bomb. My dress was soaked in red punch before I even understood what was happening. A bucket, hidden above the entrance, dumped everything onto me. Punch, glitter, maybe even eggshells. My glasses were crooked. My arms were sticky. And Jason. He was filming. I locked myself in the girls' bathroom and didn't come out until my mom arrived. I never went back to school. I finished the rest of the semester online. I didn't walk at graduation. That summer, I didn't leave my room. I deleted every picture of myself. I didn't even want to exist on the internet. It felt like breathing too loudly online would give them another reason to FIND me, humiliate me again. But there was this one night. It was almost 2 a.m. I hadn't eaten all day. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the girl staring back at me. Puffy cheeks. Dull eyes. I thought, is this it? Is this what I'll always be? And something inside me snapped. Not in a dramatic, revenge movie kind of way. No. Quietly. Deeply. I grabbed my mom's old phone and filmed myself talking. Just talking. About pain. About humiliation. About that bathroom stall and how cold it was. I didn't post it. Not then. But I kept filming. Every night, I'd sit on the FL back against the bed, and speak to no one. About how it felt to be invisible. about trying to love a body that everyone told you was wrong. I cried. I yelled. I laughed at things that weren't funny. And then one day, I posted the video. It got 10 views. But one girl commented, "I feel this so hard. Thank you." That was enough. I kept going. I made short clips about makeup for acne. Dressing for your body, not for trends. I wasn't trying to be an influencer. I was just surviving. One post at a time. A year passed. Then 2. I lost weight. Not because I hated my body anymore, but because I started treating it with respect. I ate better, moved more, took care of my skin. I got braces. I invested in myself like I was worth something. And I kept talking. By the time I had 100,000 followers, brands started reaching out. Free clothes, makeup, sponsorships. I still remember the first time a stylist told me I had the most captivating look. Now I have 2.1 million followers. I've walked in fashion weeks in New York and Paris. I own my own line of inclusive beauty products. My DMs are filled with messages from people who once looked like me, asking how, and I always answer honestly. I wasn't trying to be pretty. I was trying to be free. But here's the part you're probably waiting for. Jason. Yes, that Jason. He messaged me 6 months ago. Said he'd always admired my confidence. Asked if I wanted to catch up, maybe grab coffee. I saw his face before I even opened the message. The same smirk. Just older. He didn't look like the star quarterback anymore. He looked like every other guy who peaked at 18. I didn't respond. A few days later, I saw his name in the comments under my latest post. Damn, girl. Looking good. The girls who called me Frankenstein's daughter in freshman year? They now repost my reels with captions like body goals and tag me in their stories. They think I forgot. I didn't. But I'm not bitter. That's the best part. Because what they did to me built me. Not because they were right, but because they were wrong and I proved it. I don't live for revenge. I live for her, the girl who cried in that bathroom. The girl who whispered, "You don't deserve this," even when no one else would say it. She saved me. And now I make sure no other girl has to sit alone, covered in punch, thinking her life is over. Because it's not. It's just beginning. So yeah, they used to say I looked like a walking disaster. Now, they pay me to tag them in my stories. And every time I hit decline on a message from one of them, it feels like healing. Story 3, they called me a nerd with no life. Now I'm holding the priestly medal and they're watching from their couches. They never hit me, but they knew how to leave bruises without touching me. It started in 7th grade, in a nowhere town where football ruled and being smart made you a walking target. I was that girl. Glasses, braces, always with a book. I corrected teachers. I aced every test. I loved chemistry so much. I once built a makeshift lab in my garage using leftover vinegar and baking soda. They called me Periodic Paula like it was a slur. Sometimes it was freak. Sometimes robot. One day, someone taped a sign to my back that read, "Caution, explosive nerd." I didn't notice until FTH period. I laughed it off. Pretended it didn't matter. But it did. Every word stayed with me, like invisible ink burned into my skin. And then came high school. That's when it got worse. More cruel. More calculated. I still remember the day I came to school and found my locker completely filled with torn-up flashcards and a sticky note that said, "Here's your social life." That day, I didn't cry. I just stood there, picking up little pieces of my periodic table, feeling like a ghost. Ben Harper, the golden boy of our school, football captain, prom king, future nobody, once asked me to tutor him in chemistry. I thought maybe things were changing. He smiled like he meant it. Said things like, "Wow, you're actually cool." For 2 weeks, he texted me, called me, even walked me home. Then I found out it was a prank. They filmed me explaining ionic bonds like I was some zoo animal. Posted it online with the caption, "Nerd Seduction 101." I locked myself in my room for 3 days. Deleted my social media. Swore I'd never trust anyone again. But I also made a promise. They would never laugh at me again. I studied harder. I didn't go to parties. I didn't date. My world became labs, books, late-night YouTube videos on chemical reactions. I applied to colleges with a fire under my ribs and fury in my veins. When I got into the University of Chicago with a full scholarship, no one at school said a word. But I saw the looks. They knew. I was getting out. And I did. College was hard. People didn't bully me to my face anymore, but the judgment was still there. Try smiling more. You're too intense. Do you ever relax? But by then, I'd learned. When people can't understand your passion, they'll try to shrink it. I got my PhD in chemical engineering at MIT. My work focused on biodegradable polymers, basically, creating plastics that don't ruin the planet. I wasn't chasing fame. I just wanted to do something that mattered. But the world noticed anyway. I started speaking at conferences, published papers, got emails from high school girls who said, "I want to be like you." I kept a folder of those emails. And then, in a tiny apartment in Boston, with peeling wallpaper and a secondhand coffee maker that coughed more than it brewed, I got the email. "Dr. Paula Brooks, congratulations. You've been selected as this year's recipient of the Priestley Medal." I thought it was spam. I read it 5 times before I called my mom. The Priestley Medal is the highest honor in American chemistry. It's given to people who changed the world, people like Marie Maynard Daly, Linus Pauling, and now me. I stood on a stage in D.C., in front of hundreds of scientists, CEOs, and students, holding a medal that weighed more emotionally than physically. And in the audience, one empty chair I'd saved for my younger self. I gave a speech. I thanked the teachers who believed in me, the classmates who didn't, the pain that pushed me, and the passion that saved me. After the ceremony, my old high school inbox suddenly came to life. Ben Harper slid into my DMs. "Wow," he wrote. "I always knew you were special. So proud of you. Want to catch up sometime?" I didn't answer. I took a screenshot and sent it to my best friend with the caption, "Wow. Guess who wants to bond now?" These days, I teach. I research. I speak. I still wear glasses. Still love FL Ashgards. And I'm still that girl who once hid in a school bathroom, trying not to cry. Only now, that girl has a medal, a lab, and a voice louder than all of theirs put together. So if you're watching this and you're the weird kid, the quiet one, the one they whisper about behind your back, don't shrink. Don't fold yourself into someone else's idea of normal. They called me a loser, a freak, a nerd. Now they call me doctor. And when the camera cuts and the crowd goes home, I still go back to my notes, my molecules, and that one question I've always loved. What can we create when we stop letting the world break us?